My name is Beatrice Monroe, and I'm 68 years old. I've lived through a lot in my life, raised 3 children alone, worked 2 jobs for 30 years, buried a husband, survived cancer. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the moment my own daughter looked me in the eye at a fancy restaurant, in front of her friends and colleagues, and called me her ATM machine. Not her mother, not mama, her ATM. And the worst part, everyone laughed. But let me tell you something right now before we go any further. If you're watching this story, I need you to do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Click it right now. Then smash that like button because this story is going to take you somewhere you didn't expect. Turn on those notifications, that bell icon, so you never miss powerful stories like this one. Stories about real women, real struggles, real strength. And I want to hear from you. Drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from. What city? What state? What country? Let me know you're here with me, because I need to know I'm not alone in this. That somebody out there understands what it feels like when the people you sacrificed everything for treat you like you're nothing. Now, back to that dinner. It was a Saturday night in October. My daughter, Simone, had invited me to dinner at the Sterling, one of those upscale restaurants downtown where a salad costs $28, and they give you portions so small you need a magnifying glass to see them. "Mama, I want you to meet some important people," she'd said on the phone. "Business associates, people I'm trying to impress. Please dress nice. And Mama, I'll need you to cover the bill just this once. I'll pay you back. Just this once." I should have known better. It's never just once with Simone. But I said yes, because that's what mothers do. We say yes even when we should say no. I wore my best dress, a navy blue one I'd bought at Macy's 2 years ago for my sister's wedding. I did my makeup carefully, put on my good jewelry. I wanted Simone to be proud of me. I arrived at the Sterling at exactly 7 p.m. The hostess led me to a large table in the center of the restaurant. Simone was already there with 6 other people, 3 men in expensive suits and 3 women dressed like they'd walked out of a fashion magazine. "Mama," Simone stood up and hugged me, but it felt performative, like she was putting on a show. "Everyone, this is my mother, Beatrice." They all smiled and said polite hellos. I sat down in the empty chair next to Simone. The dinner started pleasantly enough. They talked about business, investments, portfolios, market trends, things I didn't fully understand. I just smiled and nodded and tried to stay out of the way. Then the wine came. Expensive wine, bottles and bottles of it. Then appetizers, then entrees, then desserts. I watched the numbers adding up in my head. Each bottle of wine was over $100. The appetizers were $30 each. The steaks were $65. My stomach tightened. This wasn't going to be a modest dinner. This was going to cost hundreds, maybe over 1,000. But I stayed quiet. Simone had said it was important, that these were people she needed to impress. So I smiled and made small talk when people spoke to me. I complimented the women on their outfits. I laughed at the men's jokes even when they weren't funny. And then it happened. One of the men, a guy named Chad with slicked-back hair and a Rolex that probably cost more than my car, raised his wine glass and said, "Simone, I have to say this has been wonderful. Thank you for organizing this dinner." Simone smiled. "Oh, don't thank me, thank my mama." Everyone looked at me. I felt my face get warm. "Your mother?" one of the women asked. "Yes," Simone said, laughing. "My mama is basically my personal ATM machine. Whenever I need something, I just make a withdrawal." She made a gesture like she was punching buttons on a keypad. Beep, beep, beep. Money comes out. The table erupted in laughter. I felt like I'd been slapped. Chad raised his glass higher. "Well then, to Mama the ATM, the most reliable bank in town." They all clinked glasses. They all laughed. They all thought it was hilarious. I sat there, frozen, a fake smile plastered on my face. Simone didn't even look at me. She just kept laughing with her friends. My hands were shaking under the table. My chest felt tight, but I didn't say anything. I stayed calm. I smiled. I nodded. I picked up my water glass and took a sip even though I felt like I might throw up. When the check came, $1,847.32, the waiter placed it directly in front of me. Not in the middle of the table, in front of me. Like everyone already knew who was paying. I pulled out my credit card with trembling fingers and handed it to the waiter. Simone patted my hand. "Thanks, Mama, you're the best." The best. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to stand up and walk out and never speak to her again. But I didn't. I stayed calm. I said, "You're welcome, baby." And I died a little inside. After dinner, everyone stood outside the restaurant, saying their goodbyes. Simone was animated, laughing, networking. She barely acknowledged me. Finally, when everyone else had left, she turned to me. "Mama, you were perfect tonight. Thank you so much. These connections are going to really help my career." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She was beautiful, successful, confident, everything I'd worked so hard to help her become. And she saw me as an ATM machine. "Simone," I said quietly, "do you have any idea how that made me feel, what you said in there?" She frowned. What I said. Calling me your ATM, in front of all those people. She laughed, actually laughed. "Oh, Mama, come on, it was just a joke. Nobody took it seriously." I took it seriously. "Well, you shouldn't. You're too sensitive. Everyone knows you're generous. It was a compliment." A compliment. Being compared to a machine that dispenses money was supposed to be a compliment. "Simone, that dinner cost almost $2,000. You said you'd pay me back." "I will, Mama, eventually. You know I'm good for it." Eventually, that's what she always said. Eventually never came. "When?" I pressed. "When will you pay me back?" She sighed, irritated now. "I don't know, Mama, when I can. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? You offered to help." I offered to help with one dinner, not to be humiliated in front of strangers. "Oh my God, you're being so dramatic." She checked her phone. "Look, I have to go. I'm meeting someone for drinks. Thanks again for tonight. Love you." She kissed my cheek and walked away. Just like that. Left me standing on the sidewalk, alone, $2,000 poorer and completely dismissed. I drove home in silence. My hands were still shaking. When I got to my apartment, I sat in my car for a long time before going inside. I thought about Simone, about how I'd raised her. Let me take you back. Let me tell you how we got here. I had Simone when I was 22 years old. Her father, Marcus, was 25. We were young, in love, full of dreams. Marcus worked construction. I worked as a receptionist at a dental office. We didn't have much money, but we were happy. When Simone was 3, we had twins, Darren and Denise. Life got harder then. 3 kids, still not much money, but we made it work. Marcus picked up extra shifts. I started working weekends. We stretched every dollar as far as it could go. Then, when Simone was 7, Marcus died. Car accident. Drunk driver hit him on his way home from work. He was gone before the ambulance arrived. Suddenly, I was a 29-year-old widow with 3 children and no idea how I was going to survive. But I did survive, because I had to. I got a second job, then a third. I worked as a receptionist during the day, cleaned offices at night, and did hair on weekends out of my kitchen. I never missed a rent payment. I never let my kids go hungry. I never let them see me cry. Simone was my oldest, my helper, my little partner. She took care of Darren and Denise while I worked. She helped with homework. She made dinner when I was too tired. I promised her, "Baby, when you grow up, you won't have to struggle like this. Mama's going to make sure you have opportunities. You're going to college. You're going to be something." And she was. Simone was brilliant. Straight A's all through school. She got accepted to 3 universities. But we couldn't afford any of them. The scholarships she got didn't cover everything. There was still a gap, $10,000 per year. I didn't have $10,000. I barely had $10 after paying bills. But I figured it out. I took out loans. I worked even more hours. I skipped meals to save money. I wore the same 3 outfits for 2 years. And I paid for Simone's college. All 4 years. Business degree, graduated with honors. Then she wanted to go to graduate school, MBA program, even more expensive. The twins were in high school by then. They needed things too, but Simone's education came first. I made sure of that. I took out more loans. I cashed out my small retirement fund. I did whatever it took. Simone got her MBA. She got a great job at a financial firm, started making good money, 6 figures. I was so proud. Finally, I thought, finally I can breathe. Finally, the struggle is over. But it wasn't. Because even though Simone was making good money, she was also spending it faster than she made it. Designer clothes, fancy apartment, expensive car, lavish vacations. And whenever she ran short, she came to me. Mama, can you help me with my car payment, just this month? Mama, my credit card bill is higher than I expected. Can you lend me $2,000? Mama, I need a new laptop for work. Can you cover it? And I said yes, every time, because that's what I'd always done. But she never paid me back. Eventually, never came. And over time, I noticed something changing. She stopped visiting as much, stopped calling unless she needed something, stopped asking about me, about my life, about how I was doing. I became a resource, a solution to her financial problems. Not her mother. An ATM. And tonight, she'd said it out loud. I sat in my car, staring at my apartment building, and I made a decision. This had to stop. I didn't know how. I didn't know what I was going to do. But something had to change. I went inside, made myself tea, and sat at my small kitchen table. That's when I saw the envelope. It was sitting on top of my mail pile, a bill from the hospital. I'd had a health scare 3 months ago, chest pains. They'd run tests, kept me overnight, gave me medication. I opened the envelope. The bill was $4,200. After insurance. I felt my chest tighten again. $4,000. On top of the $2,000 I just spent on Simone's dinner. On top of the loans I was still paying back from her education. On top of the money I'd lent her that she never returned. I pulled out my checkbook and looked at my balance. $1,847. Not even enough to cover the dinner I just paid for, once it cleared. I was broke. 68 years old, worked my whole life, sacrificed everything for my children, and I was broke. And my daughter thought it was funny to call me an ATM. I sat there for a long time, staring at that hospital bill. And then something inside me shifted. I thought about what Simone had said. You're too sensitive. It was just a joke. No, it wasn't a joke. It was the truth. I had become her ATM. I'd allowed it. I'd enabled it. And if I didn't do something about it now, it would never change. I picked up my phone and opened my banking app. I looked at the credit card charge from tonight, $1,847.32, still pending. And then I did something I'd never done before. I called the credit card company. Hello, I'd like to dispute a charge, I said. The representative asked me which charge. The one from tonight, from the Sterling restaurant, $1,847.32. And what's the reason for the dispute? I paused. What was the reason? Fraud. No, I'd used my card willingly. Unauthorized. No, I'd handed it to the waiter myself. But as I sat there, trying to find the words, I realized something. This wasn't about disputing the charge. This was about something bigger. Actually, I said to the representative, never mind. I'll handle this another way. I hung up. And then I opened my text messages. I started typing a message to Simone. But I stopped. A text wasn't enough. This conversation needed to happen face to face. I needed to look my daughter in the eye and tell her the truth. That I was done being her ATM. That things were going to change. Starting now. I went to bed that night with my heart pounding. Tomorrow, I would call Simone. Tomorrow, I would set up a meeting. Tomorrow, I would find my voice. But as I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, one thought kept circling through my mind. What if she didn't care? What if I told her how I felt, set my boundaries, demanded respect, and she just walked away? What if standing up for myself meant losing my daughter? Could I live with that? I didn't know. But I knew I couldn't live like this anymore. Something had to break. And I had a feeling it was going to be soon. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I woke up Sunday morning with a headache and a knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. I made myself coffee and sat at my kitchen table, staring at my phone. Call Simone, that's what I needed to do. But every time I reached for the phone, my hand froze. What would I even say? How do you tell your own child that they've been using you? That they've hurt you so deeply you can barely breathe? I sat there for 2 hours, going back and forth in my mind. Finally, around 10 a.m., my phone rang. It was Darren, my son, the twin. "Hey, Mama," he said. His voice was warm, easy. "Just calling to check on you. How was your weekend?" I almost started crying right there. Darren was different from Simone. He'd always been gentler, more thoughtful. He worked as a high school teacher, made modest money, had a wife and 2 kids. He called me every Sunday just to talk. "It was interesting," I said carefully. "Interesting good or interesting bad?" I hesitated. Then I said, "Darren, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you think I'm too giving with your sister?" There was a long pause on the other end. "Mama," he said slowly, "why are you asking me that? Just answer honestly, please." He sighed. "Yes, I think you let Simone take advantage of you." Hearing him say it out loud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. "How long have you felt that way?" I asked. "Years, Mama. Since college, probably, maybe before. She's always known you'd bail her out, and she uses it." "Why didn't you ever say anything?" "I did, a few times. You always defended her. Said she was going through a hard time, or she'd pay you back, or she needed the support. After a while, I stopped bringing it up because it just upset you." I closed my eyes. He was right. I had defended her every time. "What happened?" Darren asked gently. So I told him about the dinner, about the ATM comment, about the bill, about how I'd spent almost $2,000 and been humiliated in front of strangers. When I finished, Darren was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that shocked me. "Mama, I'm glad this happened." "What?" "I'm glad, not that she hurt you, I hate that, but I'm glad you're finally seeing what the rest of us have seen for years. Simone is selfish. She's always been selfish, and until you stop enabling her, she's never going to change." "Darren, that's your sister." "I know who she is, Mama, and I love her, but loving someone doesn't mean pretending they're not doing wrong. It means calling them on it." I sat with that. "What should I do?" I asked. "Tell her no. The next time she asks for money, tell her no. Set boundaries. Make her face consequences for once in her life. She'll be angry. Let her be angry. You've spent your whole life managing everyone else's feelings. When do you get to have feelings? When do you get to have feelings?" Those words hit me like a punch. "I have to go," I said, my voice cracking. "I'll call you later." "Mama, I love you, and I'm proud of you for finally questioning this. You deserve better." After we hung up, I sat there crying. Not sad tears, angry tears. Because Darren was right. I'd spent my entire life managing other people's feelings, making sure everyone else was okay, sacrificing my own needs, my own voice, my own peace. And where had it gotten me? Broke, exhausted, called an ATM by my own daughter. I picked up my phone and called Simone before I could talk myself out of it. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Hey, Mama." "We need to talk," I said. My voice was steadier than I expected. "Okay, about what?" "About last night, about money, About our relationship, can you come over today? She sighed. Today, Mama, I have plans. Can we do this later in the week? No, I said firmly. Today, this afternoon, 2 p.m., it's important. There was a pause. Fine, I'll be there at 2. She hung up without saying goodbye. I spent the next few hours preparing. I pulled out every record I had of money I'd given Simone over the past 5 years. Bank statements, receipts, text message requests, Venmo transactions. I made a list, a detailed, comprehensive list. College tuition, $40,000, my portion after loans, graduate school, $25,000 car down payment, $5,000 emergency, credit card payments, $8,500 rent assistance, various months, $6,000 last night's dinner, $1,847.32. And on and on. The total came to $94,347.32. $94,000. I stared at that number, read it again and again. I'd given my daughter nearly $100,000 over 5 years. And she called me an ATM like it was a joke. At exactly 2 p.m., there was a knock at my door. Simone walked in looking annoyed. She was dressed casually, jeans and a sweater, but even her casual clothes probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Mama, I don't have a lot of time, she said, not even sitting down. What's this about? Sit down, Simone. She sighed dramatically, but sat on my couch. I sat across from her in my worn armchair and put the list on the coffee table between us. What's that? She asked. That's a list of every dollar I've given you in the past 5 years. She glanced at it, then looked away. Okay, so, the total is over $94,000. She shrugged. I didn't ask you to keep track. You didn't ask me to keep track, I repeated slowly. Simone, do you understand what $94,000 represents? Do you have any idea what I had to sacrifice to give you that money? Mama, you're being dramatic again. Don't, I said sharply. Don't dismiss me. Don't tell me I'm being dramatic. You called me your ATM last night in front of a room full of people. You made a joke out of my generosity. And now you're going to sit here and listen to me. She blinked, surprised. I'd never spoken to her like that before. Last night's dinner cost $1,847, I continued. Do you know what else costs $1,847? $3 months of my rent, my medication for 6 months. A root canal I've been putting off because I can't afford it. But I spent it on your business dinner because you asked me to. And I said thank you. Thank you isn't enough, Simone. Thank you doesn't pay my bills. Thank you doesn't fill my bank account. Thank you doesn't undo the years I've spent going without so you could have everything. My voice was rising. I could feel decades of suppressed frustration bubbling to the surface. I worked 3 jobs to put you through school, I said. 3 jobs, I didn't sleep. I didn't eat properly. I destroyed my body so you could have an education. And you've never once, not once, offered to help me. Not with bills, not with rent, not with anything. That's not fair, Simone said, her voice defensive now. I didn't ask you to do all that. You chose to. I chose to because I'm your mother, because I love you, because I wanted you to have opportunities I never had. But love isn't supposed to be one-sided, Simone. Love is supposed to be reciprocal. So what, you want me to pay you back? Fine, I'll write you a check. She pulled out her phone like she was going to transfer money right then. No, I said, that's not what this is about. Then what is it about? Because honestly, Mama, I don't understand why you're so upset. You've always helped me. Why is it suddenly a problem? I looked at my daughter, this woman I'd raised, sacrificed for, loved with everything I had, and I realized something heartbreaking. She genuinely didn't understand. She didn't see anything wrong with what she'd been doing. In her mind, this was just how our relationship worked. I gave. She took. That was normal. Simone, I said quietly, when was the last time you asked me how I was doing? Really asked. Not as a pleasantry, but genuinely wanted to know about my life. She opened her mouth, then closed it. When was the last time you visited me just to visit? Not because you needed something, just because you wanted to spend time with me. Silence. When was the last time you called me just to say, I love you, or to check if I needed anything? Her face started to change. The defensiveness was cracking. I can't remember, Mama, she whispered. Neither can I said. Because it doesn't happen, Simone. Our entire relationship has become transactional. You need money, you call me. You need a favor, you call me. But otherwise, I don't hear from you. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. I didn't realize, she started. That's the problem, I said. You didn't realize because you weren't paying attention. You were so focused on your life, your career, your needs that you forgot I'm a person too. A person with feelings, with struggles, with needs of my own. Mama, I'm sorry. I need you to understand something, I interrupted. I have $1,847 in my bank account. That's it. That's all I have. And once your dinner charge clears, I'll have nothing. I have a hospital bill for over $4,000 that I can't pay. I'm 68 years old with no savings, no retirement, no safety net, because I gave it all to you. Simone's face went pale. I didn't know things were that bad. You didn't know because you didn't ask. And I didn't tell you because I didn't want to burden you. But Simone, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep giving you money I don't have. I can't keep sacrificing myself for someone who doesn't even see me. She was crying harder now. What do you want me to do? I took a deep breath. I want you to stop asking me for money, completely. No more loans. No more emergencies. No more dinners I can't afford. You make 6 figures. You can support yourself. Okay, she whispered. And I want you to start showing up. As a daughter, not when you need something, but because you love me, because you want to be in my life. I do love you, Mama. Then show me. Words are easy, Simone. Actions are what matter. We sat in silence for a long moment. Then Simone said something that surprised me. You're right, she said. About everything, I've been selfish. I've been using you, and I didn't even realize how bad it was because you let me. I started to protest, but she held up her hand. No, Mama, you did. I'm not saying it's your fault. What I did is on me. But you never said no. You never set boundaries. You never made me face consequences. So I just kept pushing and pushing because there was never a limit. She was right. I had enabled this. I don't know how to be different, she continued. I don't know how to have a relationship with you that isn't about what you can give me, because that's all it's been for so long. Then we learn, I said. Together, we figure out how to be mother and daughter in a healthy way. What if I mess up? She asked. What if I fall back into old patterns? Then I'll tell you, and you'll do better. But Simone, you have to want to change. I can't force you. This has to come from you. She nodded, wiping her tears. Then she looked at me with something I hadn't seen in years. Genuine remorse. Mama, I want to pay you back. Not everything, I know that would take years, but I want to start. I want to help with that hospital bill. I want to make sure you're okay. Simone, please, let me do this. Not because you're asking, because I want to, because it's the right thing to do. I looked at her, searching her face for sincerity. And I saw it. Real, genuine desire to make things right. Okay, I said quietly. She pulled out her phone. What's the hospital bill? $4,200. She transferred the money right then, showed me the confirmation on her screen. Thank you, I said, and I meant it. We talked for another hour, really talked, about how we'd gotten here, about what needed to change, about what a healthy relationship between us might look like. When she left, she hugged me tight. I'm going to do better, Mama, she said. I promise. I hope so, baby. I really hope so. After she left, I sat down and looked at my bank account. The hospital bill payment was there, $4,200. For the first time in months, I could breathe a little easier. But I wasn't naive. I knew one conversation, one payment, didn't fix years of dysfunction. This was just the beginning. And I had no idea if Simone would really change, or if this was just a temporary guilt response that would fade. Time would tell, but at least I'd found my voice. At least I'd set boundaries. At least I'd stopped being silent. And that night, as I got ready for bed, my phone buzzed. A text from Simone. I opened it, expecting another apology or promise. Instead, there were just 4 words that made my blood run cold. Mama, we need to talk about Daddy's life insurance. I stared at those words. Daddy's life insurance. Marcus had died over 30 years ago. The life insurance had been small, barely enough to cover the funeral and a few months of bills. What could she possibly need to talk about regarding that? Unless. My hands started shaking. Unless there was something I didn't know. Something someone had kept from me. I typed back, "What about it?" 3 dots appeared. She was typing. Then, not over text, "Tomorrow, can you meet me for lunch?" My heart was pounding now. Yes, where? That cafe near your apartment. Bernie's, noon. I'll be there. I put my phone down and stared at the ceiling. What could she possibly have to tell me about life insurance from 30 years ago? And why did I have a sinking feeling that whatever it was going to change everything? Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I didn't sleep at all that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with possibilities. Life insurance from 30 years ago. What could Simone possibly know about that? Marcus had worked for a construction company. When he died, they'd given me a small policy payout, $25,000. It seemed like a fortune at the time, but it went quickly. Funeral costs, bills, keeping us afloat while I figured out how to survive as a single mother. That money was long gone. So what was there to talk about? By the time morning came, I was exhausted and anxious. I made coffee but couldn't drink it. My stomach was in knots. At 11:45 a.m., I walked the 3 blocks to Bernie's cafe. Simone was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee in front of her. She looked different than yesterday, tired, nervous. "Mama," she said as I sat down, "I got you coffee, cream, no sugar, the way you like it." "Thank you," I said carefully. "Simone, what's this about?" She didn't answer right away. She just stared into her coffee cup like she was trying to find the right words. Finally, she looked up at me. "Last night after we talked, I couldn't sleep," she said. "I kept thinking about everything you said, about how much you sacrificed, about how I never really knew what you went through." Okay. So I started going through some old boxes, things I'd saved from when I was younger, photos, report cards, stuff like that. I waited, my heart pounding. "And I found something," she continued. Her voice was shaking now. "Something I'd forgotten about from when I was about 10 years old." She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Old, yellowed, the creases worn from being folded and unfolded many times. She slid it across the table to me. I picked it up with trembling hands and unfolded it. It was a letter, handwritten. The handwriting was familiar, but I couldn't quite place it. I started reading. "Beatrice, I know this is going to hurt you. I know you're going to be angry, but you need to know the truth. When Marcus died, there were 2 life insurance policies. The small one through his company, $25,000, that's the one they told you about. But there was another one. A private policy Marcus took out 3 years before he died. It was for $250,000. I'm the one who helped him set it up. He wanted to make sure you and the kids would be taken care of if anything happened to him. He was a good man, Beatrice. He loved you so much. After he died, the insurance company contacted me because I was listed as a witness on the policy documents. They asked how to reach you to process the claim. I should have told you right then. I should have. But I didn't. Because I convinced myself that you weren't ready, that you were too grief-stricken to handle financial decisions, that you'd waste the money or get taken advantage of. So I told them I'd handle it. I told them you'd authorized me to manage the estate. I forged your signature, Beatrice. I claimed the money. $250,000. I told myself I'd give it to you eventually, when the time was right, when you were stronger. But the years passed, and I kept finding reasons to wait, and eventually I spent it. On my house, my car, my retirement fund, my children's education. I stole from you, Beatrice. I stole your husband's legacy. I stole your security. I stole the future he worked so hard to give you. And I'm so sorry. I'm writing this letter because my doctor says I don't have much time left. Cancer, stage 4, maybe 6 months. I can't take this guilt to my grave. You deserve to know the truth. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But please know that Marcus loved you. He tried to take care of you. It was me who failed you, not him. I'm sorry, Beatrice. I'm so sorry. Your sister, Patricia. The letter fell from my hands. I couldn't breathe. Patricia, my older sister, my only sister. She died 12 years ago. Cancer, just like the letter said. And she'd stolen from me. $250,000. While I worked 3 jobs, while I skipped meals, while I destroyed my health trying to keep my children fed and housed. She had Marcus's money, the money he'd left to protect us, to give us a future. And she'd used it for herself. Mama, Simone's voice sounded far away. Mama, are you okay? I couldn't speak. I felt like I was drowning. I found this letter tucked inside an old photo album, Simone was saying. I remember the day Aunt Patricia gave me this album. I was 10. She was already sick. She gave me all these family photos and told me to keep them safe. I didn't look through the whole thing until last night. The letter was in the back. My mind was spinning. Patricia, sweet Patricia, the sister I'd looked up to my whole life, the one who'd helped me when Marcus died, the one who'd babysat my kids, the one I'd cried with at her funeral. She'd stolen from me. And she'd never told me to my face. She'd written a letter and hidden it in a photo album she gave to my 10-year-old daughter, probably hoping it would never be found. Or maybe hoping it would be found someday, so the truth wouldn't die with her. Mama, did you know about this? Simone asked gently. About the second policy. I shook my head. I still couldn't speak. Marcus never mentioned it. No, I finally whispered. He must have wanted to surprise me, or maybe he just didn't think. He never thought he'd die so young. 34 years old. That's how old Marcus was when he died. We were supposed to have decades together. He was supposed to see his children grow up, retire with me, grow old together. But he'd planned ahead anyway, just in case. He'd taken out a life insurance policy to protect us. And Patricia had stolen it. Mama, I did some research last night, Simone said. I looked up statute of limitations for insurance fraud. It's been over 30 years. There's nothing we can do legally. Aunt Patricia is gone. The money is gone. There's no way to recover it. I nodded numbly. I'd already figured that out. But Mama, Simone continued, her voice breaking, don't you see? This explains everything. Why you struggled so much. Why you had to work yourself to death. Why you never had anything for yourself. It wasn't because you were bad with money or unlucky. It was because someone stole from you, someone you trusted. She was crying now. And I did the same thing, she said. I stole from you too, not legally maybe, but morally. I took and never thought about what it cost you, just like Aunt Patricia. Simone. No, Mama, it's true. I've been doing to you exactly what she did, taking your resources, justifying it in my head, thinking I deserved it or that it was okay because you were offering. She grabbed my hands across the table. But it wasn't okay, and I'm done. I'm done being that person. I looked at my daughter through my tears. Last night I made a decision, she said. I'm going to pay you back, not just the hospital bill, everything, all $94,000. Simone, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I need to. Not to make myself feel better, but because it's right. Because that money represents years of your life, years of sacrifice, and you deserve to have it back. How? I asked. That's almost $100,000. I'll figure it out. I'll cut my expenses, move to a cheaper apartment, sell my car and get something reasonable, stop eating out, stop buying things I don't need, and I'll pay you $1,500 a month, every month, until it's paid back. I did the math in my head. At $1,500 a month, that would take her over 5 years. Simone, that's a long time. You don't have to lock yourself into that. I want to, Mama, finding this letter. It woke me up. I saw what theft looks like, what it does to someone, and I realized I've been doing the same thing to you. Maybe not as dramatically as Aunt Patricia, but the impact is the same. She squeezed my hands tighter. I want to be different. I want to be the daughter Daddy would be proud of, the daughter you deserve. I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. They poured down my face. He would be proud of you, I said. Your father, he'd be so proud of the woman you've become. I don't know about that, she said sadly, but maybe he'd be proud of the woman I'm trying to become. We sat there crying together for a long time. When we finally composed ourselves, Simone said, "There's something else." What? Darren and Denise, your other children. We need to tell them about this letter. They deserve to know. I hadn't even thought about that. They're going to be angry, I said. At Patricia, at the situation. They should be angry. We all should be. Aunt Patricia stole from all of us. That money was meant to support you, which would have made all our lives easier. She was right. If I'd had that $250,000 when Marcus died, everything would have been different. I could have bought a house instead of renting forever. I could have put money away for the kids' education instead of taking out crushing loans. I could have had savings, security, peace of mind. Instead, I had nothing. Because Patricia decided she needed it more than I did. I'll call them, I said. I'll tell them about the letter. We should all talk about this together. Simone nodded. And Mama, one more thing. Yes. I want to set up a meeting. You, me, Darren, and Denise. I want to talk to them about helping, about all of us contributing to pay you back, not just for what I took, but to build you a safety net, to give you what Aunt Patricia stole. Simone, I can't ask you all to do that. You're not asking, I'm offering. And I think when Darren and Denise hear about this, they'll want to help too. I shook my head, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Let us do this for you. Let us take care of you for once. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Genuine love, genuine care, genuine desire to make things right. Okay, I whispered. Yes. We spent another hour at that cafe talking about everything. About Patricia, about Marcus, about the past, about the future. When I finally walked home, I felt like I was in a daze. So much had been revealed, so much had shifted. Patricia had betrayed me in the worst possible way. But Simone was trying to make things right. That night, I called Darren and Denise on a three-way call. I need to tell you both something, I said. Something about your Aunt Patricia, something that's going to upset you. Mama, what's wrong? Denise asked. She was my youngest, the most sensitive of my children. I told them everything. About the letter, about the life insurance, about the $250,000 that should have been ours. The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, Darren spoke. His voice was cold, angry. She stole from us, he said. While we were eating cereal for dinner and wearing hand-me-down clothes and watching you work yourself to death, she had Daddy's money, $250,000. I know, I said quietly. And she never told you. She let you suffer. Yes. I always wondered, Denise said, her voice shaking, why Aunt Patricia had such a nice house, such nice things. She worked as a secretary. How did she afford it all? And you? You worked 3 jobs and we still struggled. Now we know, Darren said bitterly. We talked for over an hour. They were angry, hurt, betrayed. But then Denise said something that surprised me. Mama, Simone told me she's paying you back for everything she's taken over the years. She is, I said. I want to help too, Denise said. I know I haven't taken money from you like Simone did, but I haven't given back either. I haven't helped you. I've just lived my life while you struggled, and that needs to change. Denise, you don't have to. I want to. I'm going to send you $500 a month. It's not much, but it's what I can afford, and I want you to have it. I'll do the same, Darren said. Maybe $600, whatever I can manage. Mama, you've given us everything. It's time we gave back. I started crying again. My children, my bobbies, they were stepping up. We're going to build you a safety net, Darren said firmly. Between the three of us, we'll make sure you never have to worry about money again, that you never have to choose between medication and food, that you have what Daddy wanted you to have, security. I don't deserve this, I whispered. Yes, you do, all three of them said at once. And for the first time in 30 years, I felt something I hadn't felt since Marcus died. Hope. Real, genuine hope for the future. Over the next week, things started changing. Simone made her first payment, $1,500, right on schedule. Darren sent $600. Denise sent $500. $2,600 in 1 month. More money than I usually had after paying all my bills. But it wasn't just the money. Simone started calling me, not to ask for things, just to talk, to check on me, to see how I was doing. She invited me to lunch, her treat, at a normal restaurant where meals cost $12, not $65. Darren and his wife invited me over for Sunday dinner with the grandkids. Denise took me shopping and bought me a new winter coat because mine was falling apart. My children were showing up. Not because they had to, because they wanted to. Because they finally understood what I'd been trying to tell them. That I mattered, that my life mattered, that I deserved to be treated with love and respect, not just obligation. But there was still one thing nagging at me. Patricia. My sister had stolen from me and then died before I could confront her, before I could tell her how much she'd hurt me. I felt cheated, angry, betrayed all over again. And I didn't know what to do with those feelings. One afternoon, about 2 weeks after Simone showed me the letter, I decided to visit Patricia's grave. I hadn't been there in years, not since her funeral 12 years ago. I drove to the cemetery on the outskirts of town and found her headstone. Patricia Ann Williams, 1952-2013, beloved sister, mother, friend. I stood there staring at those words. Beloved sister. She hadn't been a beloved sister to me. She'd been a thief. I knelt down in the grass, not caring that it was damp and cold. And I talked to her. How could you? I said out loud. How could you do that to me, Patricia? I trusted you. I looked up to you. When Marcus died, you were the one I leaned on. And the whole time you had his money, money that could have saved me. The wind rustled through the trees. No answer came. Do you know what my life was like? I continued, my voice rising. Do you know how hard I worked, how much I sacrificed? I was so tired, Patricia, so tired I could barely stand some days. And you had $250,000, Daddy's money, money meant for his children. Tears were streaming down my face now. I would have forgiven you, I said. If you'd told me, if you'd come to me while you were still alive and said, Beatrice, I did something terrible and I'm sorry, I would have forgiven you. Because that's what sisters do. That's what family does. I wiped my eyes. But you didn't give me that chance. You wrote a letter and hid it and hoped maybe it would never be found. That's the part that hurts the most. You were a coward. I sat there in silence for a long time. And then, slowly, I felt something shifting inside me. Anger fatting, not disappearing, but softening. Because Patricia was dead. She'd been dead for 12 years. Being angry at her now wouldn't change anything, wouldn't bring back the money, wouldn't undo the years of struggle. All it would do is keep me trapped in bitterness. And I'd spent enough of my life being trapped. I forgive you, I said quietly, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I deserve to let this go and move forward. I stood up, brushed off my knees, and took one last look at the headstone. Rest in peace, Patricia. I hope you found whatever it was you were looking for. Then I walked back to my car and drove home. When I got home, there was a package waiting at my door. From Simone. I opened it. Inside was a framed photo of Marcus. Young, smiling, handsome, the way I remembered him. And underneath, the photo was a note in Simone's handwriting. Mama, I found this photo in those old albums. I thought you might want it. Daddy loved you so much. Everything he did was for you, for us. I'm going to make sure his sacrifice wasn't in vain. I love you. Simone. I held that photo to my chest and cried. Good tears this time. Healing tears. Because even though Patricia had stolen from me, even though I'd been hurt and betrayed and used, I was still here. Still standing. Still strong. And my children, my beautiful, flawed but trying children, were finally seeing me. Finally honoring me. Finally giving back the love I'd poured into them for so many years. That night, I put Marcus's photo on my bedside table. And before I went asleep, I whispered to him, I'm okay, baby. It took a long time, but I'm finally okay. And for the first time since he died, I actually believed it. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 3 months had passed since Simone showed me that letter. 3 months of steady payments from my children. 3 months of phone calls that weren't about money. 3 months of slowly rebuilding what had been broken for so long. I woke up on a Saturday morning, in January, feeling something unusual. Peace. Real, deep, settled peace. My bank account had $8,247 in it. More money than I'd seen in years. The hospital bill was paid. My rent was current. My medication cabinet was full. I even had groceries in my refrigerator that would last me 2 weeks. Simple things, things most people took for granted. But for me, they felt like miracles. I made myself coffee and sat at my kitchen table looking at Marcus's photo. I did this every morning now, talked to him, told him about my day, about the kids, about how things were changing. Good morning, baby, I said, touching the frame gently. Your children are doing good, really good, you'd be proud. My phone buzzed, a text from Simone. Mama, are you free for lunch today? There's something I want to talk to you about, something good. Something good, I smiled. A few months ago, a text like that would have made me anxious. Now I was just curious. I texted back, yes, what time? Noon, I'll pick you up. At exactly noon, Simone pulled up in front of my building. But she wasn't in her usual expensive car. She was driving a modest Toyota Corolla. I got in looking around. New car. Traded down, she said with a smile. Part of the budget cuts. Sold the Mercedes, got this. It's paid off completely. No car payment. How does it feel? I asked. Honestly, good. I don't miss the Mercedes at all. This gets me where I need to go. That's all that matters. We drove to a small Italian restaurant I'd never been to. Family-owned. Cozy. The kind of place where everything was homemade and nothing cost more than $15. After we ordered, Simone pulled out her phone and opened a banking app. I want to show you something, she said, turning the screen toward me. It was a savings account, in my name. The balance showed $11,600. I stared at it, confused. What is this? This is your account, the one I set up 3 months ago when I started making payments. Every month, I've been depositing $1,500. Darren's been adding $600. Denise has been adding $500. This is 3 months of contributions. I did the math quickly. 3 months times $2,600 was $7,800, but the account showed more. The extra money is from me, Simone explained. I put in a bonus payment when I got my year-end work bonus, an additional $3,000, and there's going to be more. She pulled out a folder and set it on the table. Open it, she said. Inside were documents, official-looking papers with lots of legal language. "What is this?" I asked. "It's a trust," Simone said. "I set up a trust fund for you, with a lawyer. Everything's legal and official." I looked up at her, shocked. "The goal is to get this account to $100,000, she continued. "Me, Darren, and Denise, we're all committed to contributing regularly until we reach that goal. At the current rate, we'll get there in about 3 years, but we're hopping to do it faster." "Simone, I can't ask you to do this." "You're not asking. We're doing it. Mama, you spent your whole life making sure we had futures. Now we're making sure you have one too." Tears filled my eyes. "But that's not all," she said, her voice excited now. "Remember, I said I had good news." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "I've been talking to a financial advisor about investments, about how to make your money work for you instead of just sitting in a savings account, and we came up with a plan." She pulled out more papers. "Once we hit $100,000, we're going to invest it. Conservative investments, safe ones, things that will generate income. The goal is to get you to a point where you have $1,500 to $2,000 coming in every month. Passive income, money you don't have to work for." I stared at her. Is that even possible? With $100,000 properly invested? Yes. It won't make you rich, but combined with your Social Security, it'll mean you're comfortable, that you can live without stress, without choosing between medication and food, without relying on anyone. I couldn't stop crying. "Why are you doing this?" I whispered. Simone reached across the table and took my hands. "Because I finally understand," she said. "I understand what you gave up for us. I understand what Daddy tried to give you. I understand what Aunt Patricia stole. And I understand that you deserve better than what you've had." She squeezed my hands. "But also, Mama, I'm doing this for me, because I need to be a better person. I need to know that I'm not like Aunt Patricia, that I don't just take, that I give back, that I honor the people who sacrificed for me." "You're already better," I said. "You're nothing like Patricia." "I was heading that way," she said honestly. "If you hadn't confronted me that day after the dinner, if you hadn't shown me that list, if you hadn't stood up for yourself, I would have just kept taking. Because it was easy, because you let me, I would have become exactly like her." Our food arrived, but neither of us touched it right away. "There's one more thing," Simone said. She looked nervous now. "What?" "I want to host Thanksgiving this year, all of us. You, me, Darren, his family, Denise, her family. A real family Thanksgiving, not like—" She trailed off. "Not like last time," I finished. "Yeah, not like last time. I want to do it right. I want to cook. I want everyone there. I want to start a new tradition. A healthy one, where we actually show up for each other." I thought about last Thanksgiving. The empty house, the 6 hours of waiting, the humiliation. It felt like a lifetime ago. "Okay," I said. "I'd like that." Simone's face lit up. "Really?" "Really? But Simone, I want to contribute. Let me make my sweet potato casserole, the one with the pecans. The one we all used to fight over." "That's the one." She smiled. "Deal." We ate our lunch, talking about lighter things, about her job, about the changes she'd been making in her life, about how much happier she felt living more simply. "I thought I needed all those things," she said. "The expensive apartment, the designer clothes, the fancy car. I thought that's what success looked like. But you know what? I'm happier now than I've been in years. I have less stuff, but I have more peace." "That's what real wealth is," I said. "Peace of mind, security, knowing you're living right." "Daddy taught you that, didn't he?" I nodded. "Your father was a simple man. He didn't need much. Just his family, his work, and his integrity. He used to say, 'Beatrice, we might not have much, but we have each other. And we have our self-respect. Nobody can take that from us.'" "I wish I'd known him better," Simone said softly. "I was only 7 when he died. My memories are so faint." "He would have loved the woman you're becoming," I said. "The real you, not the one chasing status, but the one with substance, with character." She wiped her eyes. "Thanks, Mama." After lunch, Simone drove me home, but before I got out of the car, she said, "Oh, I almost forgot. Darren and Denise want to do a family dinner tomorrow. Sunday dinner at Darren's house. Can you come?" Of course. Good, because there's something we all want to talk to you about. What? She smiled mysteriously. You'll see tomorrow. The next day, I took the bus to Darren's house in the suburbs. He lived in a modest 3-bedroom home with his wife, Jennifer, and their 2 kids, my grandchildren, Marcus Jr., named after his grandfather, and little Beatrice, named after me. When I walked in, the house smelled like roast chicken and fresh bread. "Grandma," both kids ran to hug me. I held them tight, feeling that rush of love that only grandchildren can bring. Denise was already there with her husband, Troy, and their daughter, Nia. And Simone was there too. All my children, all my grandchildren, together in one place. Darren gave me a big hug. "Hey, Mama, thanks for coming." "Wouldn't miss it," I said. We ate dinner together, all of us crowded around Darren's dining room table. The kids were loud and energetic. The adults were laughing and talking. It felt like family, real family. After dinner, Jennifer took the kids to the playroom, and the 4 of us adults, me, Simone, Darren, and Denise, sat in the living room. Darren cleared his throat. "Mama, we asked you here because we want to talk to you about something important." "Okay," I said, feeling nervous. "The 3 of us have been talking," Denise said, "about everything that's happened, about Aunt Patricia, about the money, about your situation. And we've made a decision," Simone added. They all looked at each other, then back at me. "Mama, we want to buy you a house," Darren said. I blinked. "What?" "A house," he repeated. "We want to pool our resources and buy you a small house, something you own, so you never have to worry about rent again, so you have something that's yours." I shook my head, overwhelmed. No, you can't do that. That's too much." "Mama, listen," Denise interrupted gently. "We've already looked into it. We can afford a modest house, maybe $150,000 to $180,000, something small but nice. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a little yard maybe." "We'll split it 3 ways," Simone said. "Put down a significant down payment to keep the mortgage low. Then we'll cover the monthly payments between us until it's paid off. And once it's paid off," Darren continued, "it's yours, fully yours, to live in for the rest of your life. And when you're gone, it stays in the family, gets passed down to the grandkids." I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. "We already talked to a real estate agent," Simone said. "She's been looking for properties in safe neighborhoods, close to public transportation, near grocery stores and pharmacies, places where you'd be comfortable. We found 3 options we want you to look at," Denise added. "If you're interested, if you want to do this." "Why?" I finally managed to ask. "Why would you do this?" All 3 of my children looked at me with so much love it made my heart hurt. "Because you deserve stability," Darren said. "You've spent your whole life in rentals, dealing with landlords who don't fix things, worrying about rent increases. You deserve to have a place that's yours." "Because Daddy wanted you to be secure," Simone said. "That's why he took out that life insurance policy. He wanted you taken care of, and we're going to make sure his wish comes true." "Because you're our mama," Denise said simply. "And we love you, and it's time we showed you that love in real, tangible ways." I broke down completely. These were my bobbies, the children I'd raised, the ones I'd sacrificed everything for. And they were giving it back. Not just the money, but the love, the care, the respect. "Can I see the houses?" I asked through my tears. They all smiled. "We can go next weekend," Simone said. "All of us together, make it a family outing." The following Saturday, all 3 of my children picked me up in Darren's car. We drove to the first house. It was in a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets. The house was small, a pale yellow bungalow with white trim and a small front porch. The real estate agent, a kind woman named Marlene, met us there. "This one is $165,000, she explained as she unlocked the door. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, updated kitchen. The roof was replaced 3 years ago. New water heater last year. We walked through it together. The living room had big windows that let in lots of light. The kitchen was small but efficient. The bedrooms were cozy. The bathroom had a walk-in shower, no tub to climb over, which was perfect at my age. And there was a backyard, small but enough for a garden. "What do you think, Mama?" Darren asked. I walked through it again slowly, imagining my furniture here, my life here. "It's perfect," I whispered. We looked at the other 2 houses, but my heart was already set on the yellow bungalow. That night, my children made an offer. It was accepted 2 days later. Within a month, we closed on the house. And on a cold February morning, I got the keys to my very first home. My children helped me move. We didn't have much to move, just my furniture from the small apartment, my clothes, my photos. But as I unpacked in my new house, hanging Marcus's photo in my new bedroom, I felt something I'd never felt before. Ownership, security, home. This was mine, this house, this space, this future. Nobody could take it from me. My children had given me what Patricia stole, what circumstances denied me, what I'd worked my whole life for but never achieved. Stability. That night, after everyone left, I sat on my new front porch as the sun set. I called Marcus's photo in my mind, imagining him sitting next to me. "We did it, baby," I said out loud. "Our bobbies turned out good, they really did." The weeks that followed were filled with small joys. I planted flowers in the backyard, tomatoes and herbs. I invited neighbors over for coffee, made new friends. I hosted Sunday dinners in my own home, my children and grandchildren filling my living room with noise and laughter and life. Simone continued making her payments to the trust fund. Darren and Denise, too. The balance grew steadily. But more than the money, what grew was our relationship. Simone called me every few days, sometimes just to chat, sometimes to ask advice, sometimes to share something funny that happened at work. She wasn't perfect. She still occasionally slipped into old patterns, talking too much about herself, not listening well. But she caught herself now, apologized, did better. Darren and Jennifer started a tradition of having me over every other Sunday for dinner. Denise took me shopping once a month, not for me to buy her things, but for her to buy me things. A new dress, comfortable shoes, a warm blanket. My grandchildren visited me regularly. Marcus Jr. helped me in the garden. Little Beatrice taught me how to use social media so I could see their photos. Nia brought me books to read. I was surrounded by family, real family, the kind that showed up, the kind that cared. One evening in late April, about 6 months after I'd moved into my house, I was sitting on my porch when Simone's car pulled up. She got out carrying a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. "Mama, you up for some porch sitting and wine drinking?" she asked. "Always," I said with a smile. She poured us each a glass and sat down next to me. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the neighborhood kids play in the street. Then Simone said, "Mama, can I tell you something?" "Of course." "I've been going to therapy for about 3 months now." I turned to look at her, surprised. "You have?" "Yeah, after everything that happened, I realized I needed help. I needed to understand why I became the person I was, why I treated you the way I did." "What did you learn?" I asked gently. She took a sip of her wine, thinking. "I learned that I was scared," she said finally. "Scared that I wasn't enough, that I'd never measure up. So I tried to fill that emptiness with stuff, with status, with the appearance of success. And I used you to fund that illusion." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. But the whole time, what I really needed wasn't more stuff. It was connection, real connection, with you, with Darren and Denise, with myself. "And now?" I asked. "Now I'm learning how to connect without taking, how to love without using, how to be a daughter instead of just a consumer." I reached over and squeezed her hand. "I'm proud of you," I said. "Not because you're paying me back or because you bought me a house, but because you're doing the hard work, The internal work, that takes real courage. I learned it from you, she said. You stood up for yourself even when it was hard, even when it meant risking our relationship. That took courage too. We sat there as the sun set, mother and daughter, healing together. Mama, Simone said after a while, do you remember that dinner? At the Sterling, when I called you my ATM. I remember, I said quietly. I'm so ashamed of that moment. It haunts me. Don't let it haunt you, I said. Let it teach you, there's a difference. She nodded, wiping her eyes. For what it's worth, I said. I forgive you, completely. I forgave you the moment you started trying to change. The moment you showed me with actions that you understood what you'd done wrong. How did you do it? She asked. How did you forgive me so easily? It wasn't easy, I admitted. But I chose to because I love you, and because holding on to anger was only hurting me. Forgiveness isn't about excusing what you did. It's about freeing myself from the pain of it. I want to be like that, she said. I want to be able to forgive like you do. Then start by forgiving yourself, I said. You've punished yourself enough. You're making amends. You're doing better. That's all anyone can ask. We finished our wine as the stars came out. Before Simone left, she hugged me tight. I love you, Mama, she said. Thank you for not giving up on me. I love you too, baby, I said. Always. After she left, I went inside and looked around my little house. My house. I thought about the journey that brought me here. The pain, the betrayal, the loss. Patricia stealing from me. Simone using me. Years of struggle and sacrifice. But also the strength I found. The voice I discovered. The boundaries I set. And ultimately, the healing that came from standing up for myself. I walked to my bedroom and picked up Marcus's photo. We made it, baby, I said. It took 30 years, but we made it. I kissed the photo and set it back down. Then I got ready for bed, climbed under my warm blankets in my own house, and closed my eyes. And I slept peacefully, knowing that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Valued, respected, loved. Not as an ATM. Not as a resource to be used. But as a mother, a grandmother, a woman who'd survived everything life threw at her and come out stronger. Beatrice Monroe had spent her whole life giving. And now, finally, she was receiving. Not just money, not just a house, but something far more valuable. Dignity, peace, the knowledge that she mattered. And that, I realized as I drifted off to sleep, was worth more than all the money in the world. My children hadn't just bought me a house. They'd given me back my life. My worth. My voice. And I was never going to be silent again.